To understand this development and its regional implications, let's bring in journalist and documentary filmmaker Dan Cohen. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dan. Now, we're hearing a lot about reforms in a new and open Saudi Arabia. So can you explain what those reforms may look like?
Right. In Western media, it's being pushed as a new and open Saudi Arabia and this progressive reforms. But behind this veneer, there is a major purge going on led by Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, in which as many as 500 opposition members have been rounded up, including 11 princes, and are now imprisoned in a Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh. And so if this was, an enemy of the U.S. or a rogue regime, this would be portrayed in Western media as, a coup or some kind of purge, but it's been called reforms in Western media.
All right, now, what is Saudi Arabia doing in the region, and how is that playing out internally?
Well, Saudi Arabia is leading a campaign against Yemen and has been for quite some time now that is with airstrikes on weddings, and it's been absolutely brutal. 10,000 are dead. In addition, Saudi Arabia has imposed a siege which has now created the worst cholera outbreak in human history, in which as many as 1 million people are affected, including 600,000 children. So Saudi Arabia continues to kind of discredit itself on the world stage and isolate itself through this purge and this war that's really going nowhere on Yemen.
And things you just mentioned are so tragic. Now, Saudi Arabia accused Lebanon of declaring war against it. Is Lebanon really the aggressor in this situation?
Well, the timing of this was really fascinating. Today, the Syrian army announced that it liberated the town of Abu Kamal. Last week, the Syrian army announced that it liberated Deir ez-Zor from ISIS after a fierce battle. The day after the Syrian army announced that it had defeated ISIS, the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Saad Hariri, goes to Saudi Arabia and announces his resignation from there. Hariri is widely understood in Lebanon to be kind of a Saudi puppet. And so Saudi Arabia, in just unbelievable absurdity, says that Lebanon has declared war on Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's kind of turning reality on its head, and Saudi Arabia continues to be aggressive towards Lebanon and towards Iran.
Let's talk about now the role of the U.S. in Israel, and what are the implications of these threats?
Well, Saudi Arabia aims to destabilize Lebanon as a way to get to Iran, because Hezbollah, the Shiite militia in Lebanon, is backed by Iran, it gets weapons and training from Iran. And so Saudi Arabia has a partner in that in Israel, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel seeks to destabilize Lebanon as well and eventually attack Iran. Basically every week we see Israeli threats to both Lebanon of a devastating war and Iran, and that goal is also shared by the neoconservative wing of the Trump administration. The Crown Prince of the U.S., the son-in-law of Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, is very close with Benjamin Netanyahu and has become increasingly close with Mohammed bin Salman. And you see this axis aligning against Lebanon and against Iran, and they all kind of seek to do this. There is a wing in the White House that opposes this, led by Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis and National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, which correctly understands that war with Lebanon and Iran would have devastating effects on the region and even potentially in the world. Syria has been stabilized by Russia, and any war in Lebanon would certainly expand to Syria, and Russia would simply not allow the West and Saudi Arabia and Israel to undermine its work and kind of destroy all of the work it's put into, all the sacrifice it's put into keeping Syria stable.
We're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for your insight, Dan. That was Dan Cohen, journalist and documentary filmmaker. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley.